The crops that I sow into modules and into seed trays are salad leaves, lettuce, beetroot, Swiss chard, turnips, most of the cabbage family, leeks, spring onions, chilies, tomatoes, aubergines, pretty much everything. The only things I don't put in modules are carrots because they don't do very well. The minute the end of the carrot root hits the bottom of the tray, it forks so that when you plant it out you get this really kind of knotted carrot. And radish, because they're so quick there's no point, you know, they just germinate pretty much anywhere and any time, so you might as well just sort of chuck them straight into the ground. To make the most of space, I sow into trays initially, and then from trays I sow into modules. That way you can really concentrate a lot in, particularly if your crop needs heat at the beginning to get going and get germinating. You can shove tiny amount into a really small space, and then once they're up they tend to need less heat. Then you can stop pricking them out into modules and move them in outside into cold frames. And you just want a tiny amount of seed. You don't want to sow too thickly because the whole point with successional sowing is it's little and often. The minute one lot is up like this and I've got good growth, that's a sign that I need to sow the next lot, and I keep doing that, and that will give me continuous cropping right the way through the summer. So the next stage is to prick them out once they've germinated. You can't leave them in this tray, or at least you could leave them in this tray, but what would happen is after a while, because of all the competition, probably only a quarter of them would really mature into nice plants and the rest would just be really squeezed out because there's not enough food and there's not enough space. So by pricking them out, you allow them each to have their own perfect amount of space to grow really healthy, and that's really important because when you go to put it out in the garden, if it's got a really strong healthy root system and it's a nice healthy little plant, it can take on the big bad wide world, it can take on the slugs, it can take on all sorts because it's got these roots that are going to go straight the way out into the ground and get on with life. So you either use like a chopstick or a pencil and you just go underneath the root of the plant, handle your seedling by the leaves and never the stem. That's because the stem is really delicate. All seedlings have two sets of leaves. They have baby leaves, which are the first leaves that appear when they germinate, and then they're true leaves, and the true leaves are their adult leaves. And it's really important that you handle by the baby leaves because these essentially are large, fast-growing leaves that are there just to get life going, and they're going to get rid of them in a couple of weeks' time. So if you damage them, it's not so bad. Whereas if you damage one of their true leaves, then it's a little bit more detrimental. And I start off all my peas and broad beans this way. Although it's perfectly acceptable to go and do it straight into the ground, I do find you get really erratic germination. They look so nice and satisfying, don't they?